kick this off, not just the public statements, it's going to be hard for me to trust the integrity of anybody on that team right now because I've seen so much.
The other, I still think it's just small personal disagreements in style that escalated. And I think the board certainly has people against him. I think there were one or two complaints, and that was all the impetus that the poisoned board needed to go against him. They then went to other employees and solicited opinions. It's not like 16 people came to them at once. So a few people came to them, and they went to other employees to get those other people to sign.
The other question, though, is what are we not going to see now, right? Because what stories are going to just be shelved or never reported? So that's also the other question. It's not necessarily what are we going to see coming forward, but what are we not going to see? What are they going to refuse to touch? That's the question for me.
As always, we always agree. And I was saying that earlier. I was really concerned. Like, okay, was there an impetus like to any of this? And I know what Brick's saying, and what Brick is saying is Occam's razor, and it does make the most sense from what we can see. So I do agree with him. However, to Millie, to your point, and what I was saying earlier was there something that happened because of a story that they already broke, or they were in the process of breaking? And is this what got it all shut down? That's my questions, and that's part of my questions moving forward. That's what I'm concerned about. So Caroline, go ahead.
I tend to disagree with Brick on the idea that it's just like minor disagreements. I would really, really love to be able to believe and be right in believing that the people involved with Project Veritas are committed enough to the mission and realize how important their mission is, that petty disagreements would not result in something as huge as James O'Keefe leaving Project Veritas. Because, like we've all been saying, James O'Keefe, like Project Veritas is James O'Keefe. And so I have a hard time believing that it's small disagreements that escalate to that level. And I've been saying in the little that I've said this morning, I am excited to hear more come out about this because I just don't think that I still don't think that we know enough.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the petty disagreements themselves from the rank and file. I think really it's an attitude on at least one or possibly more of the board members, and that disagreements from the employees were, the impetus that precipitated out this course of action. And, and that's that's the simplest thing I can see. That's the thing that makes the most sense to me. If you don't agree with me, that's fine too. You don't have to worry about not agreeing with me because we're all speculating here. But that's just my take on it. And I think that to the extent, hopefully James is not bound by any non-compete clauses. Hopefully he's able to establish his own venture going forward. And we'll see what's going on in the coming weeks as we get hold of real information. But until then, we can only act on what we've got.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Go ahead, Brian. I'm driving too, Brick. Brian, you there? I really need somebody to take Millie. Jen, can you...
I think he might have walked away. Eth, what's up?
Just someone to pick up the slack. I got to make a turn here, and I really
Okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted to go to hands. That's why I didn't want to jump in. But overall, I think that the situation with James O'Keefe, speaking as to what Caroline was saying, I don't think either that if it was just some little thing that it would have been taken to this level to where it was publicized and where we have James O'Keefe basically having to resign in a very upset and disgruntled way. Obviously, businesses can kind of know how to keep a wrap on certain things. But what seemed weird to me and struck me as odd is how public this is and how we had these petitions of employees signing things being passed around the office and then that going into management hands and then somehow that going into the press so that hit pieces and character assassinations could be carried out against James O'Keefe. You would think if the board of directors and those managing at Project Veritas were on top of it and were given this type of a letter, they would be able to be monitoring the situation if it happened and kind of get around and kind of shut it down, if anything, and say, hey, this isn't the way we want people to be acting, passing around petitions or whatever. Usually, when an employee has an issue, they'll go to HR or they'll go talk to the management or their boss. They won't like pass around petitions and things of that nature or letters to sign. So to me, the whole thing seems pretty odd. And it seems like the board of directors or management would have obviously caught wind of it much before the press got it. So then that makes me wonder, well, was this whole thing kind of meant to be carried out publicly, and maybe did they think that people were going to respond a lot more negatively towards James O'Keefe and essentially want him to be gone at Project Veritas, so that Project Veritas could essentially get rid of O'Keefe and carry on with their activities business as usual. Like maybe there were some people there that thought that they really could go and get rid of James O'Keefe and that no one would care.
Yeah, and also to point out as well, and I didn't think about this when Brick was talking, but again, even in that video, there was a fundamental nature of how to move forward with fundraising and what they were going to do as a structure and as an organization, an entity, on how they fundraise and so on and so forth. I mean, that seems to be kind of a core fundamental understanding that needs to be hashed out as a nonprofit, right? So it's pretty big. And then, of course, to Millie, all of your points, which I agree with, there's just why it was so public and not private lends me to believe, like you said, that this was a setup.
And it wasn't like, notice that in his resignation speech, he wasn't going on and on about the internal political drama and people making accusations against him. Like, he was talking about the money, which basically makes it seem like there was a lot of disagreement about the money and the way things were being handled in that way, and that maybe all of this other stuff was really just a way to try to get rid of him and oust him from the organization. Because otherwise, I think James, if it really just only was about these stories written by these employees, these disgruntled employees, then he would have probably touched on that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that he addressed was the claim that he was using company funds for his marriage when he's not married, right? So a lot of it was spurious and made up.
That's actually a good point. Dustin, get in here.
What's up? Just gonna shift a little bit because I called Derek, and everybody knows I'm a huge supporter of Derek's run for Congress because he's a badass. I was one of the topics we originally started with, and ask him about Tucker Carlson getting access to the 41,000 hours. Um, I think it's a step in the right direction. Like, it's better than not having it released at all. But I'd like to see all of it released to the public so that the Millie Weavers and the Jennifer Lawrences and everybody else could comb through it and look for the angles that they've been researching for years. And I just wanted to get Derek's take on that. Go ahead, Derek.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's a great step in the right direction, obviously, but people are forgetting this is bigger than just changing the narrative. This is potentially going to exonerate people. I already went to prison. I'm already home, so it doesn't help me in that regard. It helps me in terms of public perception and getting the truth out there, and something that I desperately want. I want the truth, and I think the only way to get the truth, nothing but the truth, and the entire truth, is to release all of it for everyone to see for themselves. So that's where I stand on that in that regard. And the other side of that is, once again, there's people sitting in prison right now, and some people just got arrested, and this video evidence could potentially exonerate them. When we thought it was just 14,000 hours of video footage, we were, what's the word I'm looking for? We were trying to figure out how we were going to find the manpower to comb through all of that video footage. And listen, they're saying, oh, the January 6th defendants get access to that. Okay. First of all, I never got access to any of that footage. But of course, I got out of prison in October, but I never had access to it. But I know from my fellow J6ers who have had access, they've had access to it for a while now. But the issue is the government just says, here's 14,000 hours of video footage, figure it out. And to put that in perspective, that's 508. If you sat down and started watching this video footage, you didn't stop to sleep, didn't use the bathroom, any of that, and let it play continuously, that would have been 583 days worth of video footage. So now that we're at 42,000 hours of video footage, we're talking 1,750 days, or almost 5 years worth of video footage. This is a lot of manpower to do this, and we need to get this video out there to the public. So just like Dustin said, we can get everyone to be able to watch this footage and potentially exonerate a lot of people, and if nothing else, at least let the public see for themselves the truth behind all of this. And then the last thing I'll say is, I'm happy for Tucker and his team, and I'm hoping this is just like an exclusive deal. And after Tucker goes through it and gets what he wants and everything, which I'm fine with, and I hope then at least they will release it to everyone. But we've got Julie Kelly, Gateway Pundit, Epic Times, Kara Castronova. We've got a lot of people who have, quite frankly, Gary from M5 News. These people have literally put their lives on the line, their careers on the line. They've lost family, they've lost friends, they've lost jobs, they've lost their careers for the most part, because they've been defending us in the J6 movement before it was quote unquote cool to do so. And I would think that I would love, as a January 6th person, those are the people that I trust the most to go through that and find that evidence and everything. But it's going to be a crowdsourcing thing, and it needs to be out there for everyone. And I'm perfectly fine with Tucker getting it first if that's what they want to do. I just hope this is not the where they stop with it. But thanks for asking that, Dustin. This is our phones have been blowing up all day so far with this January 6th stuff right now, and then finding out that we've been saying that we thought it was more than 14,000 hours of footage, just kind of looking at it, but we didn't know. And so now to have that confirmed, it's 42,000. I mean, think about that, guys. Like I said, it's 5 years worth of footage. This is insanity. Not to mention all the footage that was deleted when social media deplatformed all of us on January 8th, and all the citizen journalists who had video footage those days that were lost as well. So this is a big move, though. This is a huge win for us in the J6 community. I don't want to take anything away from that. This is a huge win, huge step in the right direction. Tucker has a huge platform. I'm confident he'll do a great job with the footage. But once again, even Tucker and his entire team, if they sit down for the next week and just watched it straight through, they still not going to be able to watch all of this footage. It's almost 5 years worth of footage. So just want to put that in perspective for everybody.
Well, not only that, Derek, right? And I agree with your sentiments, and that's what kind of my sentiments were earlier. But one thing that it just occurred to me for the first time when you were putting in perspective of the amount of hours that it equals, right? Or the days. Think about the immense cost for any kind of litigation, like attorney's team. Like, think about how much they charge per hour, right? And then they have to comb through 14,000 hours or 42,000 hours or whatever. Um, none of these existing court cases could afford that in the law team. Nobody could. So they're going to have to give access to a team of people that doesn't get billed hourly through the attorney's office to be able to go through this stuff. Like, it's impossible.
You're absolutely correct, and just can you imagine having to hire how many people you'd have to hire? I mean, think about it. The FBI itself has ran out of funding. The FBI and the DOJ, they had to get more funding allotted to them in this last omnibus bill to continue combing through it themselves. So, I mean, as you said, even if a legal team wanted to do it, um, and it's been very hard to find lawyers, good lawyers who will take these cases on, not just because of taking on the government, but this is very high profile to say the least. And so it's been very hard. We got some lawyers who are taking on 10 to 15 cases. So now they're going to have to comb through that however many times for each client. It's just impossible for them to do that. Under the Brady rule for exculpatory evidence, the government is technically supposed to say, here is the video footage that pertains to you. So now you can look at the video evidence that pertains to you, but they're not doing that at all.
Do you think this is
That's
something
another-
that Judicial Watch or WikiLeaks could be handling? Because, you know, like let like do it crowdsource style, right? Like have everybody look at it, and then, you know, like there's a lot of citizen journalists in this audience even, right?
Give it to 4chan. It'll be done under 2 weeks.
That's what
Yeah.
that's what I was saying earlier when we touched on this discussion. I was like, you know, we need to just let the people do it. I mean, have a million pairs of eyes on it, and that's the fastest and best way to actually vet it and get all the information that we can out of it is let it be crowdsourced by the internet sleuths.
Weaponize autism.
And like exactly, but also Tucker would be wise. Now I know he has a team that he put together the timeline, so we'll have the same team work on it, and they'll be able to kind of hone in on things really quickly because they've put all that timeline together already. So hopefully he uses the same team. But get people like MRC, get Tom Fitton Judicial Watch, get all these people, hook them up with Tucker, let them sit down and crank it out if this is the way it's going to be. But again, to Brick's point and everybody else and what Millie said earlier this morning, bro, yeah, give it to the weaponized autists, man. 2 weeks, this whole thing is done.
Yeah, man, give it to
Well,
us.
and I just, you know, and that's what we
I was
want.
literally going to say weaponize us.
Well, that's what we want as J6ers. We want it out there for everybody and for like you just said, you know, the people to crowdsource this. And I just want to make it very clear. I want everybody to think about this. There are two sides in terms of releasing this footage. There is the government who wants to keep this footage under wraps, does not want anyone to see this footage. And then you have the quote unquote insurrectionists, the terrorists, the terrible people such as myself who are begging them to release the footage of our horrible acts that day. So think about it from that perspective. The only people who would not want that evidence to be out there are the people who have something to hide. The people in prison right now, the people who are home from prison right now, such as myself, the people who just got arrested and are home on pretrial, we are all begging for this video evidence to be released to the public. And I think that goes a long ways into showing who is being truthful in the narrative surrounding January 6th.
Well, and Derek, you know, I'm going to ask you to throw up a contribution link to your campaign. Thing is, we've been on defense from the January 6th stuff for so long. Like, beat down, put in a corner. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to have Derek and be supporting his campaign for Congress is think about the message that sends. Like, we're always talking about what can we do? How do we go on offense? Well, let's send a freaking J6er to Congress and watch their heads explode when Derek Evans is sworn into the U.S. House, even after going to prison over walking into the Capitol peacefully. I think it sends a great message. So, Derek, I hope you'll share that. I'll continue to donate to your campaign. And as I remind people, at this stage in the campaign, contributions are absolutely amplified. If Derek can put up a good fundraising quarter, it cements him as the top contender in his district in West Virginia. So let's do it. I'll keep donating. I hope people will too.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. And I'll say one last thing about that is I just want everyone to know that I'm not just a random person who just decided to run because I went to prison. I was previously elected to the West Virginia State House in 2020. I was the first Republican to win my district in 98 years. I won it in a landslide victory. I stood up to government tyranny throughout the entire COVID lockdowns, the vaccine stuff, all of these things. I was the only person in the state of West Virginia elected person who refused to wear the mask and, you know, all these things. So I was already well known in terms of, you know, being a strong conservative. I went to the Capitol. If you want to see what happened to me that day, you can watch the video pinned to the top of my Twitter feed. I walked through an open set of doors. I thanked a police officer for his service. He gave me a fist bump. I spent 10 minutes in the public rotunda area. I walked out, ended up getting arrested January 8th, had an 18-month legal battle, went to prison. I've got 4 young kids. And then the beauty of my race is that I live in one of the reddest districts in the entire country. So whoever wins my Republican primary is going to win the race. My current congresswoman is not planning to run again. Even if she does, I don't trust polling data, but early polling data has me ahead of her, a sitting member of Congress, even if she did decide to run. So we got a great shot to win this thing. And the best part of this whole entire announced on January 6th, just to kind of thumb my nose a little bit. But anyways, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats actually sent out an email to the donors about me running, and it made my day just to know that Nancy Pelosi is probably drinking at 9 a.m., sitting around and talking about little old me here in West Virginia wanting to run for office. So we're making a lot of noise, making a lot of headway, and we would be honored and blessed if you guys did donate something to our campaign. And just know 100% of the contributions goes to our campaign. None of it goes to the corrupt RNC, and that's why we're using Donor Box instead of WinRed. Thank you, guys.
So real quick, yeah, thanks, Derek. By the way, go support him. Real quick, we have an update coming on. James Okeefe just released another video talking about a text message between somebody within Project Veritas that they're going to get a raise if they get James Okeefe out.
Holy shit!
So,
damn.
Can anybody play that audio? Can
yeah, please.
I'm in the car trash. I can't do it right now.
All right.
I'm sharing it right now.
No. I want to play the audio through the space. If anybody can't, I'll be in my office in like 5 minutes, but I'd like to get it played so I can hear it.
No, I'm not in my office right now.
Where is it at? I'm sitting in front of my computer.
It's
I got
it's
it.
at the top. It's Greg Price's tweet. Yeah, he's got the thing. So just play that.
It's in the nest.
This should be interesting.
Let me see here, guys. I'm sorry.
In the interim, while I'm trying to get that, there's another thing to point out too, is that if all this footage gets released, there's a chance that there will be additional arrests and prosecutions that'll come out of it.
As far as which way? More J6ers?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, like if you put all eyes on all this footage, they're going to find they will probably find some things that the prosecution has so far missed.
I got it. Okay, guys.
This is now Friday, February 3rd. A board member reached out to one of our journalists and stated, quote, "You get a raise if there is a restructure without James Okeefe at Project Veritas." I have a copy of the text message, and I'll give it to all of you. I redacted the name of the journalist. The board member deleted the message, but not before our journalist took screenshots. Good job, journalist. On Sunday, February 5th, now that's Sunday, 2 days after the Friday, a board member requested my presence at his home. He informed me, quote, "You had nothing to do, James, with this Pfizer story," unquote. Perplexed by this, I took out my iPad and showed him a video of myself confronting the Pfizer executive, which had 11 million views on YouTube. He responded, quote, "But that was after the undercover video had already been done."
Interesting. So that it ends right there.
So there's even more video coming out then, because he wasn't done speaking. And did you notice there was people giggling in the background, which means there's already a team with
supporters.
Yep.
If you go to Greg Price's feed right now, it looks like there may be other videos.
Yeah, he's publishing more of them.
I shared one.
Yeah. Can we
This
play them in
here? This is the first I've heard of that. This is the first I've heard of this. It's really good because this means that he's likely not bound by any NDAs, and we're actually going to get the real story on it.
That or he just doesn't care. Like he's like, whatever, NDAs have never stopped him before from getting whistleblowers from other companies, and so maybe he's going to do a Project Veritas on Project Veritas. I think that's what we are seeing.
Millie called it. There is a timestamp. This is recorded. She called it earlier in the stream here, guys. So, earlier in the space.
Well, he's going to have to do it to protect his name. And I guess this is just what sucks about the whole thing is, Kevin and Project Veritas's whole job, or James' whole job is to, it's looking like Project Veritas is corrupt.
Yeah, it looks like.
And
Can I play another clip?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Even so, as a former board member told me 10 years ago, Project Veritas will never be stopped from the outside. It will only be because we stopped ourselves, right? I'll get to that too in a minute. Prophetic as it may be, that is exactly where we find ourselves in the situation today. A situation where I've been stripped of my authority as CEO and removed from the board of directors. I bet you didn't know that. I'll get to that in a minute. Contrary to what public statements may say.
So that's the end of that clip.
Grant is going to be furious, by the way.
Yep.
This is not going to sit well with him with James or Project Veritas, to be honest with you. What I'm hearing right here is what he was talking about. He's going to be pissed.
Can we get him back in here? Do y'all know if he, okay,
Yes.
I'll be right back.
We should try to get Kim.com in here and see what he thinks, because, his money.
I've tried getting him.
Okay.
I agree.
In the meantime, we can get the voiceover for Kim. Hailey versus in the crowd. We could have all the host spaces in one spot.
Let's go. I'll get him up.
I hope he's not mad at me for throwing him out there. So Hailey versus coming up.
He bounced.
Oh, he ran. Oh my gosh, he ran. Trash. I just want to take advantage of this silent moment to let you know that for those who think that James O'Keefe is gonna just give it up this easily, good luck for trying. I mean, nobody goes up against Pfizer without enduring this level of, persecution. So shout out to those who can see right through the BS.
Okay, I have another clip here that I could play if you guys are interested.
I want all the clips.
Do it.
By an officer of Project Veritas.
Sorry, I'll start it over.
That's a few days after the Pfizer story. I was informed by an officer of Project Veritas on the phone while en route to the airport that he would resign unless I stepped down as CEO. We've been having a conflict of visions, him and I, over fundraising. Are we in fundraising here? I guess no one from fundraising is here. I don't know. There were tactical disagreements about the boldness of approaches soliciting donations. I was told, and I'm paraphrasing, by asking for X dollars right now, you will prevent 10X dollars down the road. That advice ran contrary to everything I knew to be true in my 13 years of fundraising. But that conflict was even more fundamental and essentially boiled down to this. And my vision, I'm going to paraphrase Howard Rourke, the architect. Quote, I don't build in order to have donors. I have donors in order to build. That's what I believed, and I felt like we had a conflict of visions. We don't measure our success only in terms of how much money we bring in. We measure our success in terms of our impact. Remember Acorn? I don't think I raised a single dollar off that. I had a stack of media coverage to the ceiling. We measure our success in terms of what we produce, not just in terms of our wallets. That was a pretty fundamental conflict, I felt. The day prior, I had informed him in front of his colleagues that if he wasn't willing to follow my lead, he'd be shown the door. I tried to deal with it privately, but I was unsuccessful, and the disagreement boiled over publicly in a staff meeting. The next day, this individual refused to resign, so I fired him. Later that same day, that's Thursday, February 2nd, a few days after the 50 million viewed Pfizer videos, I was informed by a different officer of Project Veritas that he would go to the board in a few hours from that moment and have an emergency vote to restructure this company. Receiving an agenda in my email while I was sitting on an airplane tarmac with the doors closing, the meeting was scheduled for the moment that my plane landed in Nashville. It became clear to me in that moment I would be removed from my position at Project Veritas by the time I landed at my destination. I bet you did.
Okay, so that's the end of that clip.
Wow. That sheds a lot of light on the situation. It was a fundraising disagreement, right? I mean, with James, he's never been in this for the money. It's been, his mission to tell the truth. since Acorn, since the start, where he was not making any money. And now, you have these other people coming in saying, "Oh no, we need to start fundraise. We need to start building more so you can fundraise even more." And then that runs contrary to the mission, right? Completely.
I have to.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, Millie.
So, real quick, hang on, real quick. Apparently, there's a full 45-minute video out.
There you go. I sent that to all three of you on the top here, but for some reason, the fucking Twitter hates me, and I posted it in the chat space as well. It's probably because, shills like Brian Krasenstein, that trans woman down there, blocked me and shit, or whatever the fuck's going on. I don't know. But anyways,
it's ridiculous.
It is what it is. I've sent that video to everybody, so if you want to watch that full 43 minutes or go over, I'm down.
I mean, I've never played a 45-minute video on a space before.
Do it.
I've never done it, but this seems like a first time. Can I get the hands of the panel and especially the host? Is this something we want to do? Because that's the most interesting content out there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll make the executive call on that. Let's roll.
I'm down with it too. Cool. I just want to go and say goodbye because I won't be able to stay the full 45 minutes as a speaker, but I'll definitely be in and out. This is awesome though.
Oh, Derek.
Awesome, Derek. Yeah.
Trash. I want to say something real quick about James Okeefe. Can I? So I know for a fact James Okeefe doesn't give a damn about the money. I met him personally multiple times, and I've been in the back channels, for a long time. Just picture. I'll tell you a funny story. He invited me to a after party, and I'm sitting there like, dude, I have my kids with me. He's like, all right, well, we'll X them all out. So I was partying with James Okeefe with my kids' exes in the hands and hanging out. No drinking involved, open place, public place. It was just a private party. And, this man is humble, and this man does not give a damn about the money. I'm going to put the disclaimer out there that he is in it to win it for the people. I've seen it done, and I'm very sorry that this is what's happening to him. I am not worried about it because he can take it. These guys are punching up and not down. So more kudos to him. And then I want to remind everybody, James Okeefe has not lost any credibility, and everything that he's targeted has been right on point. So I just want to remind everybody of that. And yeah, let's do this. I want to hear this space. Did you send it to me, Hailey? Because I don't see it.
It's up in the nest too, Carolina. So yeah, I want to let anybody get a. Yeah, it's up in the nest. Guys, I want to let everybody else get a word in before we go into this 45-minute video. So if there's anybody else who wants to put something out there before we get going, please do.
Cool. Sorry, Dustin.
Go ahead.
Listening to this, I think my instinct is that they already wanted him out, and they manufactured this disagreement about fundraising, perhaps to cause a disagreement. But I also am just thinking of like everything that Grant was talking about earlier. Like, was that disagreement had in order to stave off a period of fundraising while they ousted him? And when James pushed back, they let it go forward because they didn't, and let that be the reason why he's gone, is that, oh, we have a fundamental disagreement about how we want Veritas to run, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't actually have all of the power within the organization to make that happen. So I think this was a pre-existing idea. People have different goals. There maybe were people within Veritas who had bad goals, and this was either manufactured to oust him or was then obviously used to oust him. But I really think that maybe they were trying to mitigate some of the things that Graham was talking about earlier, and then they let it go forward until they could get him out.
Fire. Yeah, that's actually really, it makes a lot of sense. Dust, if you want to pop in here after mail, and then we'll get moving.
Hey, it's Miley. Really quick, I was just going to say that I think that anytime an organization or a company fires somebody or ousts them while they know that they're going to be on a flight in the air, that's super shady, and there's something not good going on there. You have to keep asking questions and keep digging. That's just shady AF. Sorry.
Great point. Like, again, you're picking a moment where they don't have the ability to respond, and cowardly, right? More than shady, I think it's cowardly, because you don't want to you want to try to pull it off where you don't have to face them and they have no ability to speak for themselves. It's cowardly, is the way I would put it. Real quick, as we do this 45-minute video, I think we should probably back channel to see if there's stopping points where we'll interrupt and allow discussion instead of running it from start to finish. We'll kind of see how the video goes and back channel on that. I just want to say too, American Mission, we've put such an incredible team together. I love seeing these spaces getting bigger and bigger. We were able to get Neil McCabe right as the story broke. Matt Couch dropping in here, the newest member of our team, with Millie Weaver and the rest of the crew. Like, we've really started to put stuff together to fill that void, to do a lot of what James O'Keefe does in the spirit of Andrew Breitbart with citizens journalism. So I want to encourage everybody to reshare the space before we start this video. Again, we'll try to make sure that we interrupt and talk about things if there's especially shocking points, like as it comes across. And if you guys want to support us continuing to do these spaces and taking it multi-platform, which is what we're doing this week, please join the Substack for free at americanmission.substack.com so we can continue to build this out, make these spaces bigger and bigger, and continue to deep dive on these stories in a way that, frankly, until Elon Musk bought Twitter, we didn't have the opportunity to do anywhere. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dust. I appreciate you. Carolina, get in here real quick, and then Millie, if you don't mind playing this video. If not, I can, depending upon what you've got going on there. I'm just in my office, so you tell me what's the best way forward.
I would say definitely if you could play it, that would be better. Just because I'm with my kids right now and they're being kind of noisy. So.
Oh,
I can do it.
Yeah, I think you said you were not at your computer yet, because if not, I'm on my computer. It's up to you.
I'm here.
Add me to the back channel, Dustin. I sent you to add me to the back channel. And what I wanted to take advantage of this moment is to kind of let everybody know that this is exactly why for the longest time I've been advocating to be careful with money handling. None of the organizations and none of the people that we've dealt with had to ever do anything directly with money. So I try to warn people. I hate to be the one that's like, I told you so. But again, I told you so. And now that I'm public, I don't give a damn. We're going to expose a whole bunch of people and their corruptions and their grifting, and more power to you. Trash, I am so blessed to have run into you, Jennifer, Millie. God bless you guys. So I am ready for this. And like I said, don't get involved with money if you don't know where the money is coming from. Keep it grassroots. Encourage a lot of citizen journalism. Post around you what's going on. Report everywhere. Keep your guards up. Vet everyone. Don't get baited into all this crazy mess. I know you want to give everybody the opportunity. Also, if you ever see me be mean, please know that we've done our homework. We've already vetted. Trash can vouch for that. He knows that I have absolutely no patience, and I'm literally sharp, focused on what we have to do. So with that being said, I told you so, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolina. Take your victory lap. And she's right. And she knows me as well because we've been friends for a little bit now. I don't hold back either. I don't have patience or time or tolerance for shit. And I just want to talk about truth. I do not want to play drama politics. It's just such nonsense. I'm tired of people trying to drag people into that stuff.
Thank you.
It's not productive. Exactly. It's just not productive.
And shout out to
Like,
you, Trash, because oh my gosh, I think the very first shenanigans you endured a lot of mess. I mean, we were in the back office in the phone. I mean, you took the punches real quick on the very first time that we had to roll on that one space with I think it was Dr. Urso and Dr. Rogers. So oh my God, shout outs to you. That was tough.
Yeah, yeah, it was not fun. We're getting more of them recently, and they seem to be ramping up a bit from a lot of different angles. And it's just, to be honest with you, it's encouraging. I'm like, okay, we're doing the right thing.
And don't think that they're not sitting there also trying to figure out how to sabotage you guys. I just caught a whole group of BLM agitators, and I called them out and they went after me, and I don't care because I have the video and I'm just waiting for my darn phone to upload it. They're sitting there, oh, they're having a J6 thing, oh, they're having a James O'Keefe thing, let's go over there and troll him. Like I busted them, and I'm waiting for the video to upload. So more power to you guys, and just stay vigilant, don't let the emotions run hot, and read the 13 rules for radicals, all the playbooks, Antifa, BLM, all these radical people go by the same playbook. So let's stay focused.
Let's go. All right, I'm going to play it, guys. So we will be back channeling, trying to figure out the best way of where to break up the segments. That way it's just not 45 minutes straight. We can throw some analysis in there because I'm sure we're all going to have a lot of thoughts. I think there's going to be a lot of us on this panel. They're going to take some victory laps when we get through this, I think. I have a feeling. So let's see where this goes. Without further ado.
Buckle up.
Thank you all for being here on President's Day, but I think it's fitting that, we're here on President's Day. I wrote these so I could get the words right, but it's obviously from the heart. And I wanted to do this in person with you all, not over a Zoom or Teams, and he's going to film it. And these are intended just for the family here at Project Veritas. It's just for us. I recognize that when you send something out to 60 people, but I'm not going to do that today. So I just wanted to tell you the truth. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to try my best to, speak from the heart, but I did write these words, and I want to tell you what's going on. So here we go. It's going to take about 15 minutes to do this. Journalism is reporting things powerful people want kept hidden for the wrong reasons, moral wrongs, bad behaviors. As journalists, we're the custodians of the public's conscience. And as we've gone deeper and deeper exposing and illuminating corruption, the lies hidden from public view, the line that separates good and evil becomes more clear. Not just in the institutions we investigate, but within one another. Throughout my 13 years doing this, our mission has evolved from simply being about exposing the truth with some hidden cameras to something more transcendental, giving people hope, right? That's what we do. I'm going to stand here because I just feel like I'm filming a video for the audience. And as we ascended into that higher purpose, which I think we all understand that we have suffered through triumph and disaster along the way in a similar fashion to what I wrote about in my book. The first chapter is called Suffering. So the line that separates good and evil passes not through the states, nor classes, nor political parties, but right through every single human heart, to quote Solzhenitsyn. So that line in the sand becomes more clear the deeper we go in investigating these powerful institutions. So over the last few weeks, I have felt a lot of despair and seen a lot of evil, and felt overcome with various emotions over the last few weeks. You could say I've seen glimpses of heaven and hell, of darkness and light. What I take away from these is the gratitude that I have for many of you, for most of you. And there is such goodness in so many of you that I have seen, and I'm grateful for that. And the generosity and goodwill we have steadily built over the past 13 years with so many people. I've received thousands of text messages and phone calls from people all over the world concerned about my well-being. But as I was going through this process, I reflected upon my appreciation for many of you. What makes us great is that we do this work because we actually believe in it, right? We actually believe in this. It shocks people that we do, and we have a passion for it, and we have principle. Like I know, we don't sell out. I think that's fair, at least most of us. We have a passion for doing the right thing in a visual way, no matter what. That's what binds us. I know many of you have experienced this despair alongside of me in the last couple weeks. One of you just told me the other day that you'd go work at Walmart at the night shift so that you could do this during the day. That's what one of you said to me. I believe you. Rather than sell out. In fact, I know this is true for many of you, and many more out there who wish to be part of this. It's true. I remember back in the beginning, 13 years ago, when I had no money, I would have to use bubblegum duct tape. I think you were around during that time. I keep looking at you because I've known you since Andrew Breitbart. And my grandmother's chinchilla, I literally had to place a Project Veritas sticker on a piece of cardboard that I ripped off from my dad's cardboard and stick it to a microphone at Radio Shack because I had no money to buy a flag mic. And this was after experiencing a meteoric high of the Acorn story. I was up and I was down. And I was broke again. And I was arrested. And then crashed down to a meteoric low. Back in the carriage house, resorting once again to bubblegum and duct tape to achieve the NPR investigation that took us yet again to a meteoric high. I was so broke that I had to scribble my name and phone numbers on pieces of paper because I had no business cards. And so the saga continues. Back then, there were no employees and no budget. But I felt the same sensation this week. I feel the sensation right now. As Steve Jobs once wrote about being fired from Apple, the company he founded. Quote, the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. So back then I trudged on. From the back of a stretch limo in D.C., two guys, I was on federal probation so I couldn't be there, but two of my volunteers, dressed like Muslim Brotherhood fundamentalists armed with hidden cameras, Project Veritas was born again in 2011 for a second time. A couple of donors eventually became 100,000 donors present day, 13 years later. After almost a decade and a half of 85 hours. All right, thank you all for being
sorry, guys.
Contrary to what public statements may say. And by the way, I have copies for this. I will not give them to you yet. I will give them to you after I'm done. And there are board minute meetings, which you'll all get a copy of, that read as follows. Quote, James Okeefe
Crash
indefinitely
Discourse, I sent via DM on Instagram to James, so if he wants to come up here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. We could hear your typing anyways. I just wanted to let you know we could hear you typing.
I know. I got a text on that. I stopped. I'm like trying to do work stuff and it's sitting on my laptop where the speaker is. So I had to stop. I'm going to use an actual click keyboard, like with your mouse. So I'm going to get back to the video. But yeah, if James wants to come on, 100%.
Okay. He'll probably just listen for a little bit. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. Quote, indefinite suspension of James Okeefe from the board, dated February 10th, 5 days before the statement saying that I'm still the CEO. I don't know why this is happening now, or specifically why this is happening suddenly, right now. As you know, at the helm of Veritas, I've never allowed or entertained speculation. I only report the facts. I think you know this. You're involved in hiring. But don't you know that so many people want to go beyond the facts? I'm adamant that I'm only going to stick to the facts. So much so that sometimes we don't hire people if they want to pontificate and opine about what's going on in society. And I've had people leave because they don't agree with this vision, okay? Or what a journalist ought to do. But fortunately, I have recordings and documents to back up everything I'm about to tell you. So everything I'm about to tell you, I have documentation and proof. So you don't have to say I wasn't there. You can listen to it and watch it for yourself.
Let's go.
Let's go. Here he goes. He's pretty broken up right now. You can't see it.
So,
yeah, all right.
I'm about a quarter of the way through here. Bear with me. For the last 13 years, I've been the same person I've always been, probably better than I used to be. These are adjectives some people used. Tough, hard-charging, driven, creative, exacting. I have extremely high standards and somewhat disorganized. I don't ask you how your Thanksgiving was, okay? Or the names of your siblings, although a good leader probably should. I don't do that. I ask a lot of you, but I don't ever ask you to do anything I haven't myself done and continue to do. I haven't always been the most compassionate leader, and that is admittedly a fault of mine, something I need to work on. But I remember when I was back in the carriage house in the beginning, there was a journalist in the beginning, and he pointed this out to me. He said, you need to be more compassionate. Asked me about my life. And it hurt him that I wasn't more compassionate towards him personally, I told him it was difficult for me to change myself. But this experience stayed with me, and I always have known this about myself. I've tried to do a better job of that, but the truth is I've been very hurried, very busy, pressed for time every day, trying to pack in so much in a day. I think you all know this in meetings. I'm busy because I'm trying to get so much done in an hour, all the while moving at the speed of light to raise as much money, to hire more people, to take care of you guys in a fundamental way, although I may not be good at communicating the reasons why I am that way. I'm doing as much as I humanly possibly can so I could build this place out and do more. And that's what we did every year, each year since 2010. Growing every year, sometimes doubling our revenue, doubling our impact. I have a chart here, which again, I'm going to hand to you, the chart of the growth every year. I have never slowed down. I recognize that perhaps I should, but number one, there's a trade-off to slowing down. And number two, I need the right leaders around me in order to do that.
So real quick, those of you that can't see the video, he has a screen grab here where it shows the revenue from 2012 starting at 738,210, and then essentially to 1.2 the next year, 2.4 the following, 3.7 following, 4.8, 8.8, 12.1, and then as of 2020, $22,034,786. What we've seen this man do from the start, I mean, he referenced Breitbart, he referenced Acorn, it has been legendary. This is why we're here right now talking about this. This is why everybody needs to hear this. I'm so sick of all the other egos out there. This is the most important thing. This is really, it's amazing stuff. I'll get back to the video, sorry, but just wanted to give you guys some context of what he had put on the screen that he was talking about handing
Steve
out.
Jobs of journalism.
And it's not even close either. Legend.
Just unlimited exponential growth every year.
100%.
Replacing people with better people. This was painful to me and to many of you who witnessed it. But that has always been happening since day one. There was turnover 10 years ago when I had to fire a friend from college. Let's just maybe hold off on that until the end. So I'll make sure that everyone has a copy of this. And I don't intend to publish this. This is for you guys internally. I had 10 years ago, I had to fire a friend from Rutgers. That hurt me. It took me months to get over this. I never discussed this. I felt for him, but it was the conflict that ate at me, but I had to do it. See, leadership has a price, and results often come at a human cost. Maybe fewer in this world, present day, are willing to pay that price. Many people want the fruits of leadership, such as its power, results, Twitter followings, secondary effects. But the price of the responsibilities, burdens, trials, hardships, difficult decisions, or just sheer suffering, I don't think people want that. And all through the years, things fundamentally continued on an upward trajectory for this place, albeit turnover. And I'm a hard guy to work for sometimes. We file our annual tax return. A public tax return is required by the IRS. And my compensation is set by an independent board of directors via the compensation committee. 4 times a year, our chief financial officer has submitted company financials to the board. That's every quarter. And our board approves it in quarterly meetings. All 3 members of the C3 were present, and we have subjected both the C3 and the C4 to audits from outside independent accounting agencies each and every year. That happens. That has always been happening. Nothing about how I've conducted myself over the past 13 years has really fundamentally changed. Until now. So what has changed in the last 3 weeks? What has changed? The only thing that has changed is that we broke the biggest story in our organization's history. You know that one I'm talking about? Pfizer. The last week of January. With 50 million views. That broke the record by 10x. Our video became a global phenomenon. It was about Pfizer and one of their directors discussing mutating the virus. Our confrontation video, where he locked me in a pizza restaurant with you, and he smashed the equipment and called the police, that became a phenomenon and was riveting television for our audiences glued to their screens. That was probably one of my favorite things that ever happened. It was just really unbelievable. It was like true to be false and seemingly too false to be true, but it was real. Right? If someone else is here, you can let them in. Hello, come on in. Just giving a few remarks to the team here, so you came at the right moment. So the only thing that changed were these videos. Outlets in India and China covered the story, and our social media exploded like never before. Our employees and board members' Twitter accounts also exploded like never before. Pfizer even put out a non-denial denial, like you always capture these things, where they basically admitted they were mutating the virus, albeit they buried this admission in jargon. But it was still an admission. And it was extraordinary that Pfizer responded to us with an admission, not denying that this guy was who he was. What an amazing turn of events. That is the only thing that's changed in 13 years of me being who I am. And then suddenly, an unusual emergency happened just a few days after that. I think we have one more person in about a minute. So suddenly, an unusual, and I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to take you through what happened. Some of you don't know these things. Hello. We're talking about the story we broke. An unusual emergency happened. On Thursday, February 2nd, that's a few days after the Pfizer story, I was informed by an officer of Project Veritas on the phone while en route to the airport that he would resign unless I stepped down as CEO. We've been having a conflict of visions, him and I, over fundraising. Fundraising? I guess no one for fundraising is here. There were tactical disagreements about the boldness of approaches soliciting donations. I was told, and I'm paraphrasing, by asking for X dollars right now, you will prevent 10X dollars down the road. That advice ran contrary to everything I knew to be true in my 13 years of fundraising. But that conflict was even more fundamental. And essentially it boiled down to this, and my vision, I'm going to paraphrase Howard Rourke, the architect. Quote, I don't build in order to have donors. I have donors in order to build. That's what I believed, and I felt like we had a conflict of visions. We don't measure our success only in terms of how much money we bring in. We measure our success in terms of our impact. Remember Acorn? I don't think I raised a single dollar off that. I had a stack of media coverage to the ceiling. We measure our success in terms of what we produce, not just in terms of our wallets. That was a pretty fundamental conflict, I felt. The day prior, I had informed him in front of his colleagues that if he wasn't willing to follow my lead, he'd be shown the door. I tried to deal with it privately, but I was unsuccessful, and the disagreement boiled over publicly in a staff meeting. The next day, this individual refused to resign, so I fired him. Later that same day, that's Thursday, February 2nd, a few days after the 50 million viewed Pfizer videos, I was informed by a different officer of Project Veritas that he would go to the board in a few hours from that moment and have an emergency vote to restructure this company. Receiving an agenda in my email while I was sitting on an airplane tarmac with the doors closing, the meeting was scheduled for the moment that my plane landed in Nashville. It became clear to me in that moment I would be removed from my position at Project Veritas by the time I landed at my destination. I bet you didn't know that. I have a copy of the emergency meeting here for you guys to take a look at. It's in writing. You could read it. You don't have to be there. You can read the minutes. They're official board minutes. They're written by a lawyer. My first question on the phone to this guy, my colleague, as I was staring at this agenda when the stewardess was asking me to get off the phone, was, quote, what are we going to tell our supporters if I'm removed from my position? I think that's the first question. I haven't had 100 questions, but that was the first one. My colleague, who is an officer of Project Veritas, responded by saying our supporters wouldn't have to find out. Sounds like something you would get in the Claire McCaskill campaign. It sounds like something you would expose. I was so shocked by this, and again, the stewardess was asking me to get off the phone. I guess you could say that I was in a state of complete shock. How would our supporters not be informed of such an enormous thing? It was a lapse in judgment so severe that it was itself a fireable offense. To make a statement like that, it was a lapse in judgment so severe, it was impossible to hide my removal from my position at Veritas to anybody. As the CEO and chief fundraiser, I have to explain the context of my role to thousands of people, 300 days a year on the road, while soliciting them for funds so that I can pay you. And I knew many of our supporters and donors would not like that change. If I was removed from the chief decision maker at the organization I founded, I share who we are, our vision, our structure, our strategy with everybody. In fact, hiding something so fundamental from people is something that we stand against in principle, particularly with the amount of scrutiny that we're under. The doors closed, the plane took off, but somehow, over the next few hours, I was able to convince the board to push this emergency meeting to that Monday, February the 6th. The very next day, and this is where things get really bizarre, so fasten your seatbelts. The very next day, on Friday, this is now Friday, February 3rd, a board member reached out to one of our journalists and stated, quote, "You get a raise if there is a restructure without James Okeefe and Project Veritas." I have a copy of the text message, and I'll give it to all of you. I redacted the name of the journalist. The board member deleted the message, but not before our journalist took screenshots. Good job, journalist. On Sunday, February 5th, now that's Sunday 2 days after the Friday, a board member requested my presence at his home. He informed me, quote, "You had nothing to do, James, with this Pfizer story," unquote. Perplexed by this, I took out my iPad and showed him a video of myself confronting the Pfizer executive, which had 11 million views on YouTube. He responded, quote, "But that was after the undercover video had already been done," unquote. I pointed out that the brave journalist, and many of you know who this person is, I'm not going to name anyone, who recorded the interaction was someone that I had to sit down over a year prior, remember, over dinner, for hours, talking off the proverbial ledge, insisting he take the long, arduous road to get the story about Pfizer. And indeed he did. The board member, responding to me saying that, said he did not know that, and admitted that another board member was persuading him to the contrary. In the meeting, we're fast forwarding to Monday, 2 weeks ago, on the 6th, I offered an apology letter to the board for my tone of voice in the office at the leadership meeting the week before, that I intended to also share that apology for my tone of voice with our staff. But the board refused to accept my apology, nor believe that it was sincere. They also did not support my sending it to the staff. I imagine many of you didn't even know that I drafted an apology. Then I was subject to a 6.5-hour listing of grievances, which included taking black cars to meetings. I don't know the significance of the color of the vehicle. And taking a few charter jets over the years to pack multiple PV meetings in a day. One of those jets, I think we had a meeting in New York, Wisconsin, and California in the same day, and it raised $2 million. But the revenue part was omitted. There was also some truly bizarre grievances, including my failure to record audio in one encounter at a bar in upstate New York, and an allegation that I stole a pregnant woman's sandwich in federal court.
So ridiculous.
There were also discussions from a few staffers with donors in the boardroom. Donors were listening to some of this, and some of these were sent directly to donors without my consent. Donors who have no knowledge of my personal life and have no business asking questions about my personal life, about girls I've dated in the past. A fundraising colleague relayed, and again, this is going to start getting really strange, but this board meeting was video recorded. We'll get to that in a minute. A fundraising staffer relayed, quote, "concerns about my behaviors regarding videos where I, quote, literally chased a Twitter executive around New York." by acclamation from all of you in 2022, that video about the Twitter chase was one of the most successful videos. But yet, your colleagues in a boardroom were expressing concerns about it. Every board member previously communicated their love of that video, but none pushed back in that moment when the staffer criticized it. Why? The attacks were so severe against me personally in that boardroom, and again, this is all video recorded, and I suggest that you ask for that. I will not provide that to you. The attacks were so severe that one board member asked, quote, "Is there anything James Okeefe is good at?" That's what your board member said. Oh, and by the way, this meeting was video recorded. I'm going to keep saying that. You may want to ask existing board members if they want to share that entire video with you.
Let's go.
I suggest you request the entire 7-hour or so video to see for yourself what actually happened. You don't have to have been there. You simply need to watch the video and hear all of the testimony. After the 6 hours, I was asked what I had to say for myself. I was given about 10 seconds to respond. And then I was dismissed.
Wow.
Then, and I'm reading from board minutes drafted by lawyers who are taking a record of what the board members said and did, a vote was called to strip me of all of my authority and decision-making at this organization for half a year. That's 180 days. Again, it's in the board minutes. You'll have a copy of it. It says, quote, "The CEO's ability to make these decisions suspended for 180 days with such power transferred to the executive director. The executive director reports to the board. The CEO is placed on leave for 2 weeks, and the CEO's access to donors is restricted. So I can't talk to donors. I can't raise money." Let's see. Okay. My first question.
Okay, real quick. There's another graphic on the screen. And welcome everybody in the room. If you guys could retweet this space. I don't know where to break this up, guys. We're already 26 minutes in. There's a total. We're about 18 minutes left. It's been so compelling. And obviously, James can deliver, well on camera. So it's really quite compelling. But I'm going to go ahead and read this graphic because I think it's important to note. Hey, Tara, good to see you. Guys, I'm trying very hard so I've got my phone sitting on my laptop speaker to play this through the space. And so I'm trying to answer DMs. I'm having to type one little letter quietly each time. So if I'm being very short in DMs, it's just because I can't respond and I can't pick my phone up to do it. So I should have been prepared for this, but I didn't know we were doing this. But I'm going to go ahead and read the screen grab real quick. Because I don't think he's going to cover it. That's why it's included on the video. So the board voted and passed the following. The CFO and chief strategy officers are reinstated. The CEO's ability to fire staff is suspended for 180 days, with each power transferred to the executive director in direct consultation with the board. So he's cut out of that process completely. Then the executive director reports to the board. So James is cut away from the executive director. The board is taking over this. The CEO is placed on paid leave for 2 weeks. The CEO surrenders company credit card. The CEO's access to proprietary information, including donor list, is restricted. Now, proprietary information includes ongoing investigations, guys. We asked this question earlier, and I think that's going to help explain it. I'm sure he's going to get into that. The CEO remains as CEO and a member of the board. The board will reconvene to complete further items for discussion and decisions. Adjourned without objection at 7:10 p.m. So no objections from anybody on the board? Bro. All right, come on, James.
Before I was dismissed, I asked how the remaining team will manage the company and what the plan was. That's something you had mentioned. What's the plan? But they didn't provide one. It was clear they didn't actually have one. And then I was dismissed. So I went off the grid as requested. Went hiking with Kennedy in the mountains. Within a few days of going off the grid, I started receiving missed calls and texts from the same board members and officers who demanded I be gone. They informed the staff that they're waiting to hear from me. I found that odd. there was a corporate resolution demanding that I be gone for 2 weeks. I was a little worried about violating the corporate resolution. Wouldn't you? This was while I was commanded by a motion of a board to be literally gone on paid leave for 2 weeks. And then an officer at Project Veritas took a screenshot of my read receipts of text messages and distributed them to you, saying, quote, "You owe your team a response. Please allow communication." This was during the time when I was required by the board to be gone. Wow. Then, it's going to get stranger. Then, and again, I'm going to give you copies of all this. Then, on February 10th, you guys don't know what I'm about to tell you, another board meeting occurred. Again, I'm gone. With the meeting's minutes reflecting that they had indefinitely suspended me from the board. By this time, they had stripped me of all of my authority as CEO. During the time I was on leave, they kicked me off the board. So I can't be a CEO if I have no authority. I can't make any decisions. I'm not allowed to access any donor names. I wasn't even sure what my job was or if I even had a job. Right now, I actually don't. I'm not sure what my job here is. In the board minutes, it says that I no longer have a paycheck and I'm indefinitely suspended from this organization. 5 days later, after that, on February 15th, a statement was put out by this organization's executive director saying, quote, "James has not been removed from Project Veritas." 5 days after they removed me from Project Veritas. James is the hardest working person I've ever met. Those who know him know he will not take time off unless forced to. Absent from the statement was the actions of the board to remove me from the board and remove me as CEO. I don't know why they omitted that part. Later on the 15th, the same day, while hiking with Kennedy, Peavy put a statement by quote tweeting a picture of me with him, saying, "There is nothing better than enjoying a well-deserved vacation." That tweet failed to mention that by then I had been removed from the board and indefinitely suspended as CEO. Why didn't they put that part in? This is where things get really messed up. A few days later, an officer sent an email to the board with bizarre hyperbole and innuendo about certain expenses related to our business needs. These included, and you can't make this up, that Project Veritas paid for James Okeefe's down payment of his wedding. I got a chuckle out of this. I'm not married. I've never been married. I do hope to get married one day. In fact, I got married to you in Oklahoma. But that was pretend. That was fun. Everyone enjoyed it. We rented a charter bus. We all went down. Everyone enjoyed that musical. Or at least I thought. I'm not married, but the truth of the expense, the $12,000, was that it was a payment for our annual Project Veritas Christmas party. Remember that? Where you guys were there? Some of you brought your spouses? The officer lied by omission, excluding the purpose of paying the $12,000 for the wedding venue. It looked like Project Veritas was reimbursing me for a wedding venue. Why would the officer lie like that? There were also, again, bizarre complaints, and this is where you come in, Asha, about taking too many trips to too many meetings over the course of a year. I think there were like 305 cars I had taken to meetings and donors and journalism assignments, including all the, quote, black cars taken from airports to various meetings. I have a copy of that, so you don't have to take my word for it.
It's in there.
The officer stated to the board, this is on February 13th this week, that we should do things such as, quote, reschedule meetings. And the IRS would prefer Zoom meetings over in-person meetings. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. My lawyers got a real laugh out of that one over the last couple of days. And again, I have a copy of these. You can read them for yourselves. The wedding, there's a line item here. It omits the purpose of the expense. It was for a project. You were there. You were dressed in your amazing Christmas clothes. I remember it was beautiful. It was like a Christmas PJ blazer thing you had on. You were there. It wasn't a wedding. It wasn't a wedding. It was a great outfit. I remember that was what I remember from that. And we sang "Oh What a Beautiful Morning," but it wasn't. I didn't get married. It was a Project Veritas Christmas party. Our Christmas party this year cost about twice as much. That one was about $12,000. Okay. And I have the line item here sent to the board about the black cars. Too many car trips. And by the way, Zoom meetings over in-person meetings is not how you raise money and not how you conduct your journalism. It's hard to get the content over a screen. Ask our journalist if that works to produce a story. In fact, I would maybe ask you guys to ask these guys how you're supposed to do your jobs without taking, quote, black cars around. I don't know how I can do my job here if I can't transport myself around the United States. It actually doesn't make any actual sense, does it? None of this makes any sense. And why is it all happening right now? Those are the questions I have. I don't have answers. You guys are journalists. Maybe you can go find the answers. I don't know. After this series of events, I wrote a letter to the board on February 16th with the proposal. Many of you have not seen this, but this is what I sent to them, which I guess they haven't shared this with you, but I'm going to share it with you now. With a proposal that the board members resign by the end of this past week. We're now past that point, or I'll be forced to walk away. And this is what I wrote.
This is tough, man.
Dear board, and I'm not going to provide the whole thing, but I'll provide the meat and potatoes. Over the last 2 weeks, I've carefully followed the board's directive to take a vacation and avoid contacting donors. Of course, donors called me. My phone was being lit up with thousands of phone calls. One donor even, I posted a video. She was upset about how she was portrayed in the grievances. Remmers was her name. She posted a video saying the grievance was a total lie. My understanding is one of the officers of this organization responded to that by calling the donor a liar. The officer wasn't there. Why would the officer call the woman with the sole authority on the matter who was there? Why would he call her a liar? I don't know the answer to that question. Your actions over the same period to undermine Veritas and its future, including airing confidential employment matters publicly, has broken trust. I cannot, in good conscience, return to such a mismanaged organization. I have not responded privately or publicly because there is no rational, appropriate response for the emotional circus that has been created by your actions. I expect the board to resign by the end of the week. Project Veritas, including any employees who choose to stay, will go on under my leadership with newly appointed professional board members and officers prepared to exercise their duty of care and duty of loyalty to the organization. That's what a board does. They exercise duty of loyalty and duty of care. What they shouldn't do is try to destroy an organization. That's not what a board member does. I will return to work on Monday, that's today, and work with the remaining team to go forward with our mission. Short of this action, I cannot, in good faith, return to the employment of an organization with leaders who are attacking me personally, making false and unsupported claims of improper management of resources about weddings and black cars, improperly airing employment issues related to me and others at Project Veritas. I did not leak that document, and I would swear to it under oath. That it probably wasn't the best idea to march employees into a boardroom. That's never happened in any boardroom in the history of boardrooms. And that's one of the reasons why our donors are so upset. That doesn't happen. Ruining our reputation in front of supporters and donors and leaking confidential information and fabricating stories. One of our ethical rules is we don't lie to our audience. I've never lied to our audience. 13 years. But I was stripped of all decision making last week. And you guys put out a statement lying to your audience.
Calling them out.
And there's nothing I could do about it. Because I was stripped of all my decision making. I was removed from CEO. I was asked to be gone until the 20th. It is now the 20th. I asked the board to resign for their conduct, they did not. So currently I have no job at Project Veritas. I have no position here based upon what the board has done. So I'm announcing to you all that today on President's Day, I'm packing up my personal belongings here. I don't really have much in this room that belongs to me. I guess a painting, a diploma, some personal things. It won't fill much. Maybe it'll fill my Kia. I'm packing up my personal, sorry to be emotional, from headquarters, and I'm intending to start anew. I don't have the answers to why they've been doing this, or why board members were going directly to employees to collect grievances on the week of our biggest story ever, or why our board members were going to employees directly to discuss removing me from this organization, even saying I'll give you a raise if James is removed. That might be illegal. I don't know. But why would they do it the week of our biggest story ever? But I'm confident that those reasons and motivations will come to light. To borrow an old expression, the public has a right to know what has happened here and why there was a concerted effort to remove me from the organization I founded the same week of our biggest story ever had. Almost done.
So tough to watch, man. Highly recommend you guys watch
Very
this.
difficult. And I'm filming this for the staff. You know, sorry you couldn't be physically here. This is for internal distribution. My dear team, I do love many of you. I never said it, those words, but I'll say it now. I want to go back to the beginning of what I said and express how important so many of you are to me. How I still believe we have a long and bright future together somehow, some way. And to share my profound appreciation for many of you. When I left the office, and this is where I'm going to get emotional, so please forgive me. When I left the office on February 6th after being stripped of all my authority, I saw my father and gave him a hug, realizing just how honest and real of a man he is. Both my parents are as genuine and down-to-earth as a son could ever have. It's true you never really know someone until you go through hell with them. You see, back in the carriage house 13 years ago, the feds would come to my home to make sure that I was inside my house, administering random drug tests and rifling through my expenses to make sure I wasn't lying about the strawberry ice cream I bought at 7-Eleven. I didn't have any money, but they went through my debit card statements and tried to get me to sign things to prove I wasn't lying. There were federal agents showing up at my parents' house. There were no donors. There were no supporters. And I was not trending on Twitter. My father went through this hell with me and stood up to those bullies on the front lawn and told them to stop harassing our family. And at that point, that's all I had, was him. I was otherwise completely alone. I will never forget that. Now the good news, we're no longer alone. We have millions of Americans who also know who I am. In fact, you have, and we all have watched their overwhelming support. They see the truth. They know who I am. I also know many of you know who I am, and you know what's right? You know, you're people of principle here. People in this room, and this now may be your moment of truth. One of you called me from a closet the day of the 7th after I was suspended, the day after I was let go, and you were crying. I never heard that tone before. I told you it was going to be okay. You were afraid of what was happening here. You said, this is really hard to take. I can't take this anymore. I told you that I struggled alongside you, although I wasn't physically there. I told you that I loved you. A number of us told each other that we loved one another. It was the first time I've shared that sentiment with a colleague. It was a very real moment, a very beautiful moment, a touching moment where we were bound together. in that moment, and I was grateful for that. I recognize just how honest and real many of you are in your souls, that you are amazing people. We have some really amazing people here, with men with brass balls and women with the courage of a lion. And it really, what I drew from this experience is the gratitude that I have, for so many of you. And as I was going through this horrible pain, where I lost 8 pounds and couldn't sleep for 5 days, I was actually overcome with this amazing gratitude. True story. I was really feeling it, and I'm grateful for that, because I've experienced something I never have, because I saw the goodness in many of you that I did not previously see. So I amend the statement that I made in the beginning of this. The statement I made before was Veritas will never be defeated from the outside, it will only be defeated from the inside. That's actually not true. No. The only way to defeat us is if they take our spirit. And from the looks of things, many of us remain completely undefeated and unbroken. So, our mission continues on. I'm not done. The mission will perhaps take on a new name, and it may be no longer called Veritas, Project Veritas. I'll meet a bunch of people around me, and I'll make sure you know how to find me. And I'll quote when you invited me to New York City and did that little stand-up. How fitting that from Shakespeare, quote, "And this story shall the good man teach his son. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers and sisters." So with that, I'm going to collect my things. I'm going to load them into my car. And I hope to see some of you soon. That's it.
Wow. Okay. So that was pretty intense, and
it was.
I appreciate everyone that's here. This room has gotten massive, 1,651 people in it currently. I wanted this message to get out. I remember I was jokingly making a joke with Millie, like, "Oh man, there's going to be some victory laps here," but there's no victory lap here at all. This is a tragedy. It is disgusting, but I believe that there's a message of hope here. So we'll continue supporting him any way we can. As Caroline and I always talk about in our spaces, I don't really give a shit about your politics or your bias. What's the truth? And he spoke that a lot in this video, and that's why I respect this man so much. To be honest with you, I'm sure I'm a pain in the ass to work for. I know I am, but I think some of the best ones are. So I know Dustin wanted to chime on this. There's a lot of personal stuff here. So Dust, if you want to get in here.
So I'm fucking irate. I'm just gonna swear. I don't really care. Like, this is sabotage, and it's sabotage, as he said, around when they launched the biggest story of the history of Project Veritas, which is around what? Pfizer and big pharma. This is unfreaking real, right? This is a takedown of one of the only institutions left that practice actual freaking journalism, and now it's been taken away from us because of why? Because of the power of big pharma and Pfizer and the rest of these big freaking bastards that cause so much havoc. Imagine the audacity of this freaking board to question James O'Keefe's fundraising abilities, right? He's taken this from literally nothing, from literally zero to $20+ million a year, right? On his vision, on his drive, and they're going to take it away from him? And they're going to question about how he travels around the country and whether or not he gets Ubers to get himself around. They're going to say, "Oh no, we actually know how you should squeeze money out of donors." Who the fuck do these people think they are? Right? No, I don't know. I'm listening to that boils my blood, because I've seen it happen in other organizations where
Yep.
these people come in and they think they know better. They think they're smarter. There's no one better at building an organization, fundraising than James fucking Okeefe. Like, get the fuck out of here. These people need to be exposed, like, by name and booted the fuck out of our movement. That's all I'm going to say.
100%, Dust. And I'm angry too. I was just trying to keep myself calm because I was boiling, and I've seen this happen too. Hell, there was an attempt to get me fired at the career I'm in. We see how that turned out. But again, I've had to play these games, but on this scale, on this level, at these stakes, there were no more higher stakes than what happened here, which also means that it is that much more outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. But I know he's not going to stop. There's no way. I'm done now. No,
he's not done.
So
no, he's going to rise up. He's going to rise up from the ashes like the phoenix. And
yeah, exactly. And I just hope he does a lot of Project Veritas on Project Veritas. Let's go, burn it.
Well, it seemed like he was describing classic hostile takeover activities on part of the board. Like, for example, when he mentioned how they set the meeting for right the second he got off of the plane, that's so that they could try to do it without him present. I mean, these are all tactics that you see these corporate boards often use to try to play little games. And so they stripped him of everything. So he has no real reason to stay at Project Veritas at that point. And I'm glad that he did that resignation speech. I know that was actually probably really hard for a lot of you guys to watch. It was hard for me to watch. You could really tell that he's pretty heartbroken about this situation. So it's a tragedy, and it's really confirmed a lot of my initial feelings and my initial take that I had on this situation, being that it looked like it was a coup. It looked like, who in their right mind would have aired all the internal politics going on at the office if it wasn't that they were trying to do a character assassination attempt on James O'Keefe. And it is extremely bizarre. The timing right after the Pfizer investigation and right during the biggest investigation they did, I mean, this reeks of corruption.
Absolutely 100%, Millie, and it does. It confirmed a lot. That's why I said there's no victory laps to be taken here. I was saying that in jest, and then as I was watching this video of how personal this really was, I mean, there's no way in hell I would ever take those laps. But you're absolutely correct. We were talking about a lot of this, and so it's not a victory lap. It's just a confirmation of what we can see: the absolute corruption and disgusting people. And frankly, this is the ethos that needs to change in our country. Like, how, in what world? All right.
How fucking dare these people, right? How fucking dare they? Like, I'm just so mad about this. Like, watching this man build something from nothing. I mean, when he was talking about how he had visits from the FBI every week, and the only person he had in his life who could, defend him was his dad, that broke my heart listening to that. And for them to take all of that away from him, like, he struggled through that. He persevered and he built something from nothing to create, one of the most powerful journalistic organizations on the fucking planet, breaking this biggest story of the year, of the decade even, and for them to just take it away from him, to wrench it away from him and destroy it, like, that is fucked up.
Well, and not only that, the point I was going to make is, in what world, after revealing everything that's been revealed through these investigations, that you thought it was more important to oust the guy that created the entire thing than it was to prop him up to keep this going because of what the information is being exposed? What that tells me is that a lot of these people don't give a damn about integrity, don't give a damn about anybody but themselves. And I'm just so disgusted with this. Absolutely disgusted.
Just straight up think that these people don't have good goals. I look forward to hearing about how Pfizer has infiltrated Project Veritas. And quite honestly, I look forward to seeing the people responsible for this dealing with the ire of thousands and thousands of people who are pissed off because this is like what James O'Keefe has been doing at Project Veritas is unparalleled. Period. End of story. It is some of the most important journalism happening. And to have people come through and uproot that, I have listened to so many shitlib people like
lecture about democracy. You want to get pissed off about democracy, wait for the ire of all of us to come down on the people responsible for this. I am pissed.
And Trash, if I could just chime in here real quick. I'm sitting here watching this, right? And it's such a compelling and powerful and moving speech. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about all the smears and the narratives and the attacks against Project Veritas and James O'Keefe in the past from mainstream media and other media outlets that always propagated the narrative that James was this manipulative and deceptive individual who used unethical tactics to push his own agenda. And after hearing this story and this speech, these same accusations that have been propagated against him are the same manipulative and deceptive and unethical tactics being used against him to push him out of Project Veritas. The hypocrisy that's been put on full display is so damaging to Project Veritas. They will never recover without him. They're dead. They're finished. This video perfectly displays everything we know James to be, how he's conducted himself during his career, and who he is as a person. He's a crusader for truth and transparency. And even now in the video, speaking on his own company ordering out a character assassination on him, everything he speaks on, he still sticks to his values and his ethos and provides the receipts and remains true to his craft. This is, as you said, Trish, it's disgusting what's happening to him.
100%. Maze, get in here.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I just want to interject real quick. They've lost approximately 90,000 followers so far today, dropping at around 10 to 15 followers per second. I have a live link up there in the nest if you want to check it out. It's just plummeting.
It is. I've actually had that ticker. You actually retweeted it. I saw it earlier, so I had put it in the chat before you got in here because I've been watching it too. They deserve every bit of it. Maze, get in here.
Yeah, so I think, right now is kind of an emotional time, especially after listening to that. And thank you so much, Trash, for playing it, because it did take us deep into like the life of what he's going through right now. But I really can't wait to see humanity's response. I mean, this just came in. Wait and see. I think that he is going, just not necessarily like intentionally, but there's going to be a lot of support rallying around him, a lot of funds raised, and he's going to be able to take off, and never will he make the same mistakes about putting people on the board that could ever do this again. But this is just the beginning. Project Veritas is going to crumble. Like, that's just no, I doubt, just from what happened, I doubt that they're going to have any support from anybody, right? Like, I mean, they might have their couple of, but the things have changed. And all I'm saying is that when we turn our anger into creativity and innovation, there's going to be something great that comes from this. And it's got all of our attention. So I just wanted to put that on a positive note, that I think, I can't wait to see what comes of this in a good way.
We have to look for the good. I had my rant. Dustin had his rant. Caroline, Raymond, we all had our rant. We said in public, in the ethos, how pissed off we were. I'm never going to talk about being pissed again. I'm going to talk about the positives. I'm going to look for the ways that we can get this moving very quickly. I'm sure he's going to be right bounced back up. As we know, those donor networks are going to be following him. We know a lot of the employees are going to be following him, and he's going to learn from the mistakes that he made in an effort to try to build something from nothing. You're going to make mistakes because you have to have funding from places. You have to have this stuff built out. And if all you want to do is go get a microphone and, like he said, cardboard and tape, and go do a story about acorns, dressed like a pimp.
Wait, I didn't have my rant yet. I'm thinking about it,
okay,
but I'll let you know.
Okay.
Well, no, so the rants are important, but let me just say this, right? We're at a time now where media, mainstream, is completely, the trust there is gone. A lot of people are looking for citizen journalism, and this type of journalism. The demand has never been higher, right? We have elections coming up. We have all this chaos going on with the vaccines and the globalization, he is in high demand. Okay. And what he needs is a team that rallies around him and that is going to be able to be supportive of that, some funding. I mean, guys, easy peasy. I'm not trying to, like, I want everybody to get their anger out. I tend to just always look for the positive. I know the best things that ever happened to me were some of the things that I wanted so badly to work out, but it didn't. And that is what kept me going to the perfect opportunity. So I look forward to seeing how this actually turns around for him. And that's all. I just, throwing that out there.
Yeah,
But
I think
go
it's
ahead.
good to stay positive, but I hope he has some sort of legal recourse, to be honest. That's the first thing going through my mind, is what kind of legal recourse he has. I'm not an attorney, but that would be